PPB has issued media alerts and press releases, especially cautioning on self-medications and also stockpiling by general public and even by healthcare workers. And this is important because the issue of hydroxychloroquine, we know that it's a very important product used for treatment of other diseases. And therefore, there was a risk that if people go and stockpile and also self-medicate, it could actually cause a shortage of this product on the market, and therefore not being available for those who really need it. So we did a media alert and also press release on the two products, hydroxychloroquine and dexamethasone, and also generally asking the public not to self-medicate on any other product, not just limited to those two, and also to be able to, providing them with a contact where they can be able to call if they suspect that they have symptoms or signs of COVID-19. So that is communication, some kind of safety, and also risk communication that has been issued by PPB. We can move on next slide. Quality survey of health products and technologies. This is very important in order to monitor and also promote good quality products circulating in the Kenyan market. Beginning April, we were able to carry out national sampling of alcohol-based hand sanitizers, including the cross-border areas and all the counties in the country. These products were sampled and tested at MEDS laboratory, and we got very interesting findings. And based on those findings, we were able to take regulatory actions, which included removal of those substandard and also harmful products, of course, through our inspection and enforcement directorate. We have also just concluded an activity that involved sampling of surgical masks and some surgical gloves as well from Nyanza and Western regions. This activity is going to be scaled up to cover all the regions of the country. So in the next we should be able to download it and here we are working very closely with the
as in okay, let me just download, let me print, go through and then I share.
Yes. Diambo, there is some background noise.
Yes, I'm trying to mute that, but it's okay.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so for PPEs, we have been able to look at specifically surgical masks, gloves, and we have sample already. We have samples. We are working with KAPI to be able to carry out the tests based on KAPI standard, and we shall be sharing some of those findings once we have. We are doing the testing in batches. I mean, the first sample that we have collected from Nyanza and Western region, we'll be able to test those ones first, then move to the next region, be able to collect, and then have that second set like that. And so we'll be able to receive a preliminary report as we go along to test samples that we have collected from the other regions. So basically, this is to ensure that masks that are out there are of good quality and they're also safe, because
we're losing you.
Surgical masks. And generally, we're also doing market surveillance, surveillance. Also, we have a department called Drug Crime Investigation. They have been able to work with the customs and police. And through those efforts, they were able to stop consignment of masks that is coming through Busia border from Uganda. And so those kind of collaborations working with other government agencies, just to be able to carry out surveillance of the market and ensure that the products that are coming in are either authorized to come in, and those that are not authorized are stopped at the ports of entry. We can move on to the next slide. Workplace measures for prevention of COVID-19. Again, beginning March, I think Nairobi was the first county, Nairobi and Kiambu. Through our directorate, they were able to visit almost all pharmaceutical outlets to be able to ensure that they are putting in place measures measures for prevention of COVID-19, prevention and control of COVID-19. And these measures included social distancing, and also to ensure that the healthcare workers in those outlets are properly wearing their PPEs, and also asking the people who come in those pharmacies to wear their PPEs, to wear their surgical masks, or masks for that matter. Also, awareness materials. During the inspections, they were able to encourage or require that pharmacies display COVID-19 awareness materials conspicuously, so that clients can be able to access these materials. And in fact, some counties had very nice posters on COVID-19, and pharmacists and technologists were encouraged to display these information and education and communication materials. Also, they were encouraged pharmacists to adopt cashless transactions, and they asked them to either put the till numbers or other form of cashless transactions, so to discourage use of paper-based money, and then ensure that those pharmacies, also healthcare facilities, have hand washing facilities and also sanitizers. Also, that was one of the requirements on their checklist. And move on to the next slide. Disinfection of work surfaces and high-touch areas, that was also enforced. And because I was lucky to be in this activity, in some cases, actually, people were required to ensure that these measures are put in place before the inspectors will move to another. So, instantly they were required to put in these measures. If they didn't have a hand washing facility, then they'll be required to go in and buy that container and put water and provide with the soap instantly before before the inspectors move to the next facility. And then proper disposal of used surgical masks and other clinical or biological waste. This is to protect both the healthcare workers or the pharmacy, the technologists in the pharmacy, and also to protect the clients who are visiting those pharmacies. Can move on to the next slide. We also have clinical trial evaluations and monitoring. We have collaborations, both regional, national, regional, and international collaborations through our clinical trial department. And PPB is very active in AVREF, which is African Vaccine Regulatory Forum. This is a forum that brings regulators together on issues of clinical trials, especially for vaccines. We have also forums for joint reviews and work sharing, both at regional level and continental level. And then PPB also issued new guidelines for clinical trial evaluations in COVID-19 context. And then currently we're also laying down preparations in some kind of tools and also SOPs in preparation for a possible COVID-19 vaccine. You can move on. Next slide. Other initiatives by PPP include assessment of healthcare facilities, preparedness for COVID-19. This was done in collaboration with other government agencies like the Medical Practitioner Dentist Council, Nursing Council, and all the regulatory councils and bodies. So just to look at the infrastructure, look at preparedness, look at the training of healthcare workers and all that, and also based on the findings, make recommendations on how to improve and fill those gaps that were identified for healthcare facilities. We have also participated, or rather undertaken safety monitoring of COVID-19 treatments in about 5 treatment or isolation centers, and we are currently analyzing this data, and it will be shared with those facilities. And probably once we have also finalized on it, it could be published so that we are looking at the kind of treatments that are being offered for these patients. We're also looking at any adverse drug reactions that were detected for this kind of treatments that are being given. And also, in some cases, we are also looking at outcomes for these patients. So basically, safety monitoring and the sampling of cases or files, looking at the kind of treatments that are being offered. We've also been involved in training and sensitization of healthcare workers on pharmacovigilance and post-market surveillance. In addition to provision of reporting avenues, the PVRS, majority of us know about the PVRS. We also open to calls. You can call PPB directly. You can send an email. You can also find us on social media and be able to put in any issues that concern safety and quality. And we have also published guidelines on vigilance of products and technologies. Next slide. Yeah, so the next slide is, thank you. You need not to be certain, just be suspicious and also report all suspected adverse events and quality defects. That is the mantra. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Wanga. So as we've all heard, that was Dr. Karim Wanga from Pharmacy and Poisons Board, head of the post-market surveillance section within the product safety unit. Thank you, Dr. Wanga. I can see a lot of work happening at PPB despite of the challenging times. Particularly very interested in hearing more on the masks and the gloves and the alcohol-based sanitizers. But I will come back to you. I have some questions, but for now, I suggest we move on to Dr. Jerusha Kamau, our second panelist for today. As I had mentioned, Dr. Kamau is an expert with a focus on pharmacovigilance and regulatory affairs and capacity building, founder of Jeyflex. And I invite her to give us her thoughts, her opinion as an independent consultant in this field of patient safety. Welcome, Dr. Kamau.
Thank you, Dr. Jayesh. And thank you, Dr. Wanga, for that presentation. There's quite a number of insights, and I'm sure it receipts the same number of questions at the end of this. As you have been told, my name is Dr. Jerusha Kamau, a pharmaceutical compliance consultant and the CEO of Jeyflex. At Jeyflex, we help pharmaceutical companies get clarity on their compliance obligations, develop clear compliance roadmaps, this is very important, and craft working formula to their compliance obligations. And here, whether we are talking about the product registrations, post-market surveillance, or capacity building, same process applies. And we have done this for the last 8 years, and within this year, we have witnessed various changes in the guidelines coming from registration of medical devices, promulgation of the pharmacovigilance guidelines, and all this is geared towards ensuring that the patient is safe. However, right now we have been sensitized to reset our thoughts in the frame of health worker safety as a prerequisite to patient safety, and for sure this is a very great opportunity for us all to ensure that our healthcare workers are safe as we ensure our patients are safe. And so today we are looking at the role of the regulators in ensuring quality, safe, and effective medical products, and to ensure they are accessible, affordable, and we are going to discuss a few of these issues below. The saying goes that you cannot give what you don't have, and that's why we are talking of the healthcare worker needs to be safe, so that we ensure that our patients are safe. And in this presentation, I'm going to present some fact sheets so that we can have a feel of what patient safety is all about. And we are going to look at 4 very simple steps to ensure the health worker and at the same time the patient is safe. We are going to look at the different players and their roles in ensuring patient safety. And we will also wrap up in seeing how Jeyflex will play a role in ensuring the healthcare safety.
Dr. Jerusha, if you are presenting, can we have your slides on, please? Thank you.
Oh, okay, fine. Sorry. Okay, just a minute. Can you see the slides now? Please confirm.
Not yet on my side.
No, not yet. Okay. And now?
Not yet, Dr. Kamau.
Okay. Okay, then give me a minute.
Dr. Tiabo, I guess Jerusha has dropped off. Maybe she's trying to reconnect.
She just switched off her video. I think maybe she can share the slides so that I can present them from this end.
Yeah, if Jerusha can still hear us. So in the meantime, as we get the slides being uploaded, mine is to request everybody that if you have any questions, please use the chat option that's available so that your questions can adequately be answered. Please write whom you are addressing this question to, unless it is to all the plenary, and then ask your question. So that would make it easier for the panelists to respond. Thank you, Dr. Kamau. We can now see your slide. Please progress. Dr. Kamau, we can see your slides, but we can't hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just done the introduction. And as I said, my names are Dr. Jerusha Kamau, the CEO of Jeyflex Consultants. At Jeyflex, we help clients craft their compliance roadmap and come up with the working formula. And we do this for product registrations. We do this for post-market survey and capacity building. Today, we are just looking at the role of regulatory agencies, quality, safe, and effective medicine, and we are looking at the health worker, a priority for patient safety. And this is really important because as in the wake of this pandemic, we have just seen very disturbing statistics on how the health workers are actually dying and getting infected. And so we are going to look at what can we contribute as the stakeholders to ensure that these health workers are safe, and by extension, make sure our patients are safe. As an outline, I'm going to present some fact sheet to see the numbers. We are going to look at how the 4 simple steps to ensure that our patients and our healthcare workers are safe. the different players and their roles in patient safety, and how Jeyflex is going to play a role in ensuring the health worker is safe. Fact sheet there, we're just seeing that according to the Amnesty International, 7,000 health workers have died from the COVID-19 pandemic. And out of those, we are just seeing all those numbers there. And in Africa, we have 10,000. Closer home in Kenya, we are always seeing nils. And like in the Daily Nation of 18th August, we saw Kenya COVID-19 takes toll on health workers as 16 die and 838 get sick. These are staggering statistics, and that's why we need to think seriously about the healthcare worker. And so the 4 simple steps: we need to inform the patient, we need to inform the healthcare worker, as these take the major role in ensuring that they are safe. What we are saying here is that the patient and the healthcare worker, in the first place, they need to take charge of their safety, as we also help to ensure they are safe. And the second step is we need to verify. Verify, that's what we are talking about. Verify this is the right product. Verify this PPE is of the correct quality. Verify this is the right patient, and verify all the steps that we need to take. That way, then we can ensure that the health worker is safe. And the other step is documentation. We need to document all the processes. Once we document the processes, then it becomes very easy to follow them. And this will really minimize the risks that the healthcare worker is likely to come into. And we really need to simplify these processes. Once they are very simplified, then it becomes very easy to comply. If you look at the statistics, we are told that most of the places where we find that the COVID-19 measures are not being adhered to are in the private sector. And so what we are asking is, what is it that is so hard in the private sector that you are finding it difficult to comply? Most likely is that the processes are very lengthy. Most likely that all these processes are not documented. And so it becomes then there is a lot of discretion. But once all the processes are documented, then it becomes very easy to ensure the patients are safe. Different players here, and the most important player here that we are looking at today is the regulatory authority, and in our case it's the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, and we are looking at what are their responsibility in terms of ensuring the patient or the healthcare worker is safe. We have seen a lot of guidelines come into effect in the last few years, starting from the promulgation of the pharmacovigilance guidelines, the revision and the harmonization of the regulatory product registration guidelines, and we also have in the process the regulation of cosmetics and all these guidelines. And this is, we can actually say we have no shortage of the regulatory guidelines, and so we are looking at, we have these regulatory guidelines yet. Then what does it take for the stakeholders to comply? And so what we are saying is that the regulator needs to create an enabling environment for compliance and reporting. Yeah, let's make it easy to comply. Let's make the processes very smooth, so that we don't find like compliance is a bother. We also need to ensure that the right professionals are handling the products. And in this case, what we are really worried about, especially the home care, the home care that the patients are taking, and we are wondering, what is the training that these healthcare workers at home have in terms of the machines they are supposed to handle, the PPEs? Do they know how to put on the PPEs properly? Do they know where to get the right kind of masks? These are all things that we are worried about. And of course, we need to create a lot of awareness about the reporting responsibilities and avenues. Dr. Wanga has talked about involving the healthcare workers and training them on how to report, but I still believe there is a very big gap. There are a lot of healthcare workers who don't know what they are supposed to report and who don't know even what they are supposed to report. For example, most of the healthcare workers or most of the people think that we only need to report the adverse drug reactions. They don't know that if there is a medication error, we need to report. When we give a patient a product and it doesn't work, they don't know that maybe this would be a result of lack of efficacy, and so they need to report. And so there is still a very big gap, and we need to continue creating awareness on all these responsibilities, and of course enforcing compliance. Like currently we have the PFIN guidelines in place, and I don't know what the Pharmacy and Poisons Board is doing to ensure that all the stakeholders comply with these guidelines. And it would be difficult to work about the players without looking at the entrepreneurs and the investors, because these are the people who are the players in the private sector. And of course, when we look at the entrepreneur will be very much concerned about the top line. The entrepreneur will be very much concerned about the cost-cutting measures, and they'll hardly think about any department that will look like it is a cost sector without a commensurate revenue generation. And so we are looking at how can we encourage these entrepreneurs to allocate adequate resources for pharmacovigilance activities, and looking at these activities is part and parcel of what they need to do to make their businesses grow. It is a case of take care of the goose that lays your eggs, and in this case the patient and the healthcare provider. So we need to just ensure that the entrepreneurs encourage them to prioritize pharmacovigilance and make pharmacovigilance everybody's business. Entrench pharmacovigilance into company policies so that everybody knows this is an important part of our business. And this is important for us because we need to ensure the healthcare workers are safe, the patients are safe, and then we have people to continue serving. The other very important player here is the healthcare workers. And when we talk about the healthcare workers, most times we are thinking about the clinicians, the nurses, the pharmacists, but we also need to look at the paramedics and other subordinates who are very part and parcel of patient care. So we need to look at what kind of training do we need to give them. When that person in the hospital is cleaning that ward that is occupied by the COVID-19 patients, what kind of precautions do they need to take? When that person who is doing the home-based care is at home and taking care of that patient, what kind of precaution do they need to take? This would go a long way in ensuring that all these people are safe. The patient here, very key, and what we are saying is the patient needs to look at herself or himself as being the first person to ensure his safety. Ask the right question when they go to the clinician, provide accurate information about their health and about their medical history. We have seen cases whereby the patient goes to the hospital and they are suspecting that they have COVID-19, but they don't want to tell the clinician, and this exposes the healthcare worker to a lot of risk. So the patient also needs to take charge of that and ensure that everybody is safe. The patient also needs to be made aware that they need to report all the adverse events and raise any safety concerns with their healthcare providers. And so at Jeyflex, as I said, there is what we can do and what we can contribute to ensure that the patient is safe, and ours is to just help our clients, the stakeholders, ensure that their processes are there in place to ensure that the patient is safe. So if you have a staff skills gap, we can conduct training. If you have any unplanned transitions, we can help you bridge that gap. And of importance is a department that is not well staffed, you can outsource. What we see these days is that especially the startup entrepreneurs, they will wear very many hats. there will be the business development manager, there will be the finance director, and the pharmacovigilance director. And what happens is the pharmacovigilance part will definitely not be attended to very well. And so what we say is it's not very difficult to comply with all these guidelines. We just need to have a roadmap and a formula that work, and you can do this very efficiently without really looking at that as a cost center. Why Jeyflex? We have a lot of regional experience. You can rely on us, and we will always give you customized solutions based on your requirements. And as Jayesh said, because of the gap that is there is a very big gap in the regulatory skills. We are coming up with a book that will help all the regulatory practitioners to just get that advantage of you can quickly go through the book and get the guidelines in a snapshot. Rather than going through 300 pages of the guidelines, you can get this book and maybe within 2 days you have grasped most of what is in the guidelines. And those are our contacts. Thank you very much. Back to you, Jayesh.
Thank you, Dr. Kamau. Very interesting. I like your analogy of saying inform, verify, and then document. I've always heard that if you don't document, that means it was never done. And I like the fact that you stressed on both, one, to verify, and second, to simplify. So I will come back to you. I would like to also learn more about the book and how this will be made available, when it will be made available. But for now, I would like us to move forward to Dr. Winnie Munene. As I had introduced Dr. Munene earlier, Dr. Munene works with Boehringer-Ingelheim. She is the Pharmacovigilance Manager for Sub-Sahara Africa. And we know her, those who know her. She is passionate and committed to enhance patient safety, improve access to health and social equity. Karibu sana, Dr. Munene.
Thank you very much, Jayesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please proceed.
Good. And my presentation is up. Everyone can see?
Yes, it is.
Great. So thank you very much. And I want to thank KAPI and, of course, David for giving me the opportunity to participate in this webinar. And also want to thank Wanga and Jerusha for going before me, and thank you for setting the platform. So Jayesh has rightly introduced me, so I'll go right into the presentation. So I would like also to just give a disclaimer that my thoughts today are mine and not of my employer. And some of the topics that I will probably just highlight for today, and as we celebrate the week for World Patient Safety, just a quick introduction, some quick facts and figures, then just put it into context of what you're talking about, health worker patient safety, and the role of the national policy and regulation in Kenya, and a call to action. So basically, we look at pharmacovigilance for a few things. First of all, when a drug is released into the market, it has rarely been exposed to more than 5,000 people. And this is about less than 0.1% of the global population. And therefore, we would not know exactly what kind of effects. We don't have 100% sure about the effects of that particular drug, especially on different populations, different genetic combinations. PV basically supports public health programs by providing reliable and balanced information for the effective assessment of risk-benefit profile of medicines and also healthcare technologies. Ultimate goal of pharmacovigilance is to improve the safe and rational use of drugs and medical technologies, and hence improving patient care and public health, which is definitely what we're trying to focus on for this year's health worker safety, for the safety of patients as well. When you talk about patient safety, what are we saying? Basically, patient safety is the absence of preventable harm to a patient. either during the process of healthcare or reduction of risk of unnecessary harm associated with the healthcare to an acceptable minimum. We say an acceptable minimum because at every point in process of giving care, there are certain degrees of inherent unsafety. And therefore, you have to look at context in which care was delivered, and you have to weigh the risk and looking at non-treatment versus treatment. When you talk about patient safety, what is important in terms of driving sustainable and significant improvements in safety of healthcare? We're looking at clear policies, which has been talked about by Wanga in the past introduction. Organizational leadership and capacity. This is what we are doing right here in a roundtable discussing patient safety. Data is very important, and both the panelists have discussed it. And also just involving patients in their care pathways. When you look at the facts and figures and why it's important for us this year to actually focus on the safety of healthcare workers. 1 in 300, there is a chance 1 in 300 that healthcare-induced injury equates to premature deaths daily, and this is on a daily basis. Patient safety is a fundamental principle, and important measures must be taken to prevent any adverse events. Adverse events may result from problems in practice, products, procedures, or systems, and approximately 20 to 40% of all healthcare spending is wasted due to poor quality of care. Therefore, there is economic benefits of improving patient safety. Drugs and medical technologies act as a lifeline for mitigating symptoms and treating illness, but at the same time, they can be hazardous and have the potential to put the world's 59 million healthcare workers administering them at risk. And this is not what we want, because we want them to be at the front line, healthy, and ready to take care of us as patients. So what is required and what do we need to do to protect our healthcare workers? We need to looking at a complete process of safe handling of medical products and healthcare technologies in their entire life cycle, and looking at management, administration, looking at things like transportation of these particular medicines and technologies, how we store them, how we dispense them, and looking at that healthcare providers also have to report on all suspected adverse events, as this can save lives of their patients, but also their lives. We need also to invest in patient safety, because investing in patient safety is seen to, it could bring significant financial savings, and of course, our focus would be better patient outcomes. So this picture just puts into context what we've been seeing on the news, social media, just seeing how healthcare workers. Yes?
Sorry, Dr. Munene. I'm not sure about others, but I can't see your slides.
Oh, sorry. I don't know, something snapped. Just 1 minute. Someone tried to share, I think, and changed everything. Are you able to see now?
Yes, now I can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, so basically I was saying that this gives basically some of the pictures and depictions of what we've been seeing our healthcare workers going through. Forgive me for the white faces and the white hands, but it just basically shows that this is what the globe has been experiencing from our healthcare workers. You know, healthcare workers reacting from latex gloves, healthcare workers reacting from the masks they have to wear for many hours, and also the protective gear that they have to work with in hot conditions. And these are things that we are asking actually healthcare workers have to come in. They have to come in and report some of the effects, because at the end of the day, as marketing authorization holders or as manufacturers, we want to improve our products, and we want to catch this data to make sure that our products are beneficial rather than bringing risk to the people who are using them. So when we say report, and it's also been guided by, Pharmacy and Poisons Board, different healthcare authorities, different healthcare organizations like WHO. We are asking healthcare workers to report unexpected lack of effects. So in case there is an issue or a detection of counterfeiting, drug resistance, interactions or reactions, if there's issues of quality problems and technical complaints about the drug, if you identify, you come across dependence and abuse of medical products, in case you come across poisoning or medication errors or toxicities in your line of work, in case you're exposed to a drug during pregnancy or also during breastfeeding, adverse events following immunization, and suspected adverse events that could be seen through medical devices, which has been the big issue, especially with COVID. So when we talk about national policies and regulations, also just to give you a background, more than half of the low and lower middle income countries don't have national health technology policies, which could ensure the effective use of resources through proper planning, assessment, acquisition, and management of medical devices. Hence, a lot of these countries lack access to appropriate devices. So in our case and in our context, I would say that we are one of the most progressive countries when I speak about Sub-Saharan Africa, because we have a fully fledged department in the Ministry of Health, which is housed at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which, as well illustrated and enumerated by Dr. Wanga, we cover a couple of guidelines to cover post-marketing surveillance of the products that are registered in the country. So this is just a snapshot of some of the guidelines that the manufacturers are using to make sure that the products that are in the market are safe. So just to highlight that PPB is a National Medical Medicines Regulatory Authority in Kenya. It has clearly outlined the expectations and also set up guidelines and policies and also mandated manufacturers to have qualified persons for pharmacovigilance who are responsible to set up pharmacovigilance systems, which basically ensure that we collate, evaluate the information that we collect in the market that relates to adverse reactions or quality problems. I must say that I have to commend our health authority as well, PPB, for actually having a digital electronic spontaneous reporting system, and Dr. Wanga alluded to it, the PV electronic reporting system, where patients and healthcare workers can report from anywhere, but also they also have continued to avail the manual platforms. Also, we have seen the PPB constitutes a pharmacovigilance risk assessment and advisory committee, which is basically, evaluating the different data that PPB is receiving. PPB is receiving from the different manufacturers and marketing authorization holder, and evaluating the safety, risk, and benefit of the different products in the country. PPB also clearly stipulates some of the regulatory sanctions in case of non-compliance by the manufacturers and marketing authorization holders. Some of the safety data that we are submitting to PPB, and this is after collecting and evaluating the information from the different individual case safety reports that we are collecting and processing. So we have adverse events, and this is given through the ICSR, individual case safety reports, periodic safety update reports, and periodic benefit risk evaluation reports, which is basically a consolidation of the different signals that have been collected either in the country or even globally. We have things like company-sponsored pre- and post-registration study reports. So even when the products are registered, there would still be some sort of clinical studies happening in the country for some things that would have not been covered pre-clinical. Risk management plans for products that we see have a higher risk in terms of the patient demographics, and also ongoing pharmacovigilance evaluation during post-registration period. So this is some of the interactions that most of the manufacturers and marketing authorization holders have with our National Health Authority. I also want to just highlight this particular graph, which the source obviously is PPB report. It just sort of emphasizes how we need to collect more data and use data to make decisions and to put up strategies in terms of pharmacovigilance and safety reporting. So from this graph, you can see that there's more reports coming out of Nairobi, which is probably an awareness issue, and much, much less reports from places like Nyamira. So looking at this and as industry, I think there's an emphasis that we need to do more awareness campaigns, communications, just to sensitize both healthcare workers and patients and general public on reporting of adverse drug reaction. I think it's a topic that's still yet to be exploited so that people can be aware of what they need to report. My call to action, basically as a healthcare professional, is whether you're visiting a healthcare professional yourself or you're attending to a patient or you're just reading an article, you're surfing the web or you're on social media, or you're even in a social gathering at home with your family, and you might hear possible untoward effects, you need to report. Yeah. Everybody has a role in knowledge sharing, promotion of patient safety core principles and values, advocating for the development and implementation of impactful policies and strategies aimed at improvement of patient safety globally. For me, my urge to everyone is that we need to speak up for health workers and especially those who are in the front line. And for PV to be effective, we need to be timely, effective and responsible communication of the collected evidence with all the relevant stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Munene. Thank you for re-emphasizing that reporting is key, it is most important. And it was interesting to see how healthcare workers themselves are being affected with the PPEs. I hadn't seen some of those pictures before. So this is important, and I think we will all delve into this. So mine is to now, as such, open this to everybody. Please submit your questions or any comments that you have through the chat system that's there. A few questions have started coming in, so I would like to take that up. As I take the questions up, others please continue to submit and clearly addressing whom you would prefer this being answered by. Otherwise, we'll all have a look at this in plenary. So the first question goes to Dr. Wanga. Dr. Wanga, Dr. Kimatu is asking, one of the safety issue of hand sanitizers has been use of methanol instead of ethanol or isopropyl alcohol. Did the post-market surveillance that you mentioned that you've been carrying out get some of those, and did PPB communicate the safety concerns to the public? Dr. Wanga, can you hear us?
Dr. Jayesh?
So the question is, one of the safety issues of hand sanitizers has been where people use methanol instead of ethanol or isopropyl alcohol. In your PMS, did you pick any such instances? And if such, what has PPB done to communicate the same to the public?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, it's true. We were able to detect few products that had methanol instead of ethanol and 1-propanol and the other alcohol that is recommended. What we have done is, again, through our inspectorate, is to follow up with the manufacturer these products. A lot of these manufacturers were what we call cottage, the small manufacturers in those back streets, you can call them that. So they are not really manufacturers who are licensed by pharmacy board. Rather, they are people who have been manufacturing maybe alcohol, the spirits and all that. So they saw an opportunity and decided to start manufacturing alcohol-based hand sanitizers. So through Inspectorate, again, they have been able to follow up with these people, and where it was clear that these people don't have capacity, they don't have guidance, they don't have anything, they were closed down. And in cases where, for example, we detected that it's just substandard, instead of 60% volume by volume, which is the KAPI standard minimum, they had, for example, 50%, and you can see they have capacity. Then for those ones, they were provided with guidance in some kind of capacity building to ensure that the subsequent batches they produce actually comply with the standard, keeping in mind that we are in the context of pandemic. But where methanol was detected in those products instead of ethanol, and those ones, Inspectorate has been cracking down on them and basically closing them down, because there are people who don't have capacity, they don't have any clue on how to manufacture these products.
Thank you, Dr. Wanga. Now that you are at that, I would like to ask a question that joins from what the other two presenters were saying. And if you saw Dr. Munene's presentation, where we have PV reports separated county by county, then you can see that in the remote, in the faraway counties, the number of reports are far, far less than what we would expect, what we are seeing here in Nairobi. So mine is to ask you, as much as we know the good work that PPB has done regarding communication on COVID-related matters such as the use of DEXA, the use of hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, the use of sanitizers, etc. As much as it's all good, I have seen this in a lot of social media. Mine is to you that how is Wanjiku in the village getting to know that she should not be using chloroquine, for example, without a doctor's advice? And what are the efforts that are currently being put in place that same Wanjiku has that extra knowledge that, you know, kamadawa inanidhuru, if I have anything to report to, then I know my regulator, I know my Pharmacy and Poisons Board that I can report to.
That's a good question, Dr. Jayesh. We must admit that we've not done enough to be able to reach out to the lowest levels communities. However, we have been able to do some activities that are geared towards ensuring that the information reaches out to the public, general public, the Wanjiku. And these include, for example, the road shows. We've done road shows in towns within the counties, Buffalo counties. We've also done road shows in Nairobi. And also we try and participate in the annual trade ASK, what they call ASK shows.
ASK show, correct.
Yes. Now we have the public passing through and give them information. We are able to advise them on how to report any quality effect of products or even ADR, and give them contacts of PPB and share any other information that they would require to know. So also we participate in those forums. Also through our regional inspectors, we have, PPB has 10 regions, is organized into 10 regions in the country, basically the former provinces, and then in those regions we have regional heads who are in charge of the region, and they are pharmacists, majority of them. So these ones have also been involved in radio talk shows, especially in the local vernacular language, where they educate the public against issues of self-medication. They also educate the public on reporting of poor quality products, suspected poor quality products, and even adverse drug reactions, at least to their healthcare worker. We know some of them may not be able to access the, of course, they're not able to fill the pink form, or even the PVRS system, but they are encouraged to report their healthcare workers so that then the healthcare workers can be able to do the pink or yellow form reports and submit to PPB. So we try to get to the communities, and also through inspectors again in the regions. They have forums with the provincial administration where they meet the county commissioner, sub-county commissioner, and even the DO and the area chiefs. There are forums, and even the courts. There are forums where they do sensitization and public awareness on issue of products and also adverse drug reaction. So we are planning, and it's in our strategic plan, to scale up on trainings, especially healthcare workers, both private sector and public sector, scale up on the numbers and the regions we visit to train, and also scale up on the issue of public awareness, whether it's on TV, radio, and even vernacular station in the communities, of course, using our colleagues who are in the counties. So those are some of the strategies we hope to apply. And also in terms of reporting, we are working on our PVRS upgrade, and hopefully we'll be able to put up a simple tool where we'll allow consumer reporting so that Wanjiku can easily, it will be available both in English and Kiswahili. Wanjiku can easily be able to put in a little information and say, nilitumia hii dawa, na I had a side effect, ama nilinunua dawa na naona dawa si mzuri, ni mbaya. Some simple tool where they can report. So it will not just be healthcare workers reporting, but it will also be there will be an available tool for consumer reporting, and that is work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wanga. No, appreciated. I wasn't aware of the other activities, so road shows and SK shows, this is really good. That way at least PPB is one of the neighbors of Wanjiku, right? It's not that PPB ni watu wa Nairobi. It's good that we are felt down there. So with that, I would like to move to a question that I've received to Dr. Jerusha. So interesting, like you mentioned that you are a consultant in regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance and compliance in the country. So in your experience, I ask, what is it that you have witnessed in our regulatory spaces that compromise on health worker and patient safety in healthcare, right? We can see there are good guidelines. There's a lot of activities that PPB is already doing, but if you look at the regulatory space, then what is it that you see as a consultant, as a person out there, that you see that compromises on health worker and patient safety, and how can we address this going forward?
Thank you, Dr. Jayesh. And yes, we are, as I started with, I said we have very good guidelines, and implementation is basically an issue, and we need to improve in this. A few shortfalls that I have identified. One, we have a deficit on policy on product identification along the supply chain. In the sector, we need to empower all players along the supply chain to identify genuine products. And basically, if we could have a policy on traceability, so that if I am a pharmacist at the retail level and I buy masks, am I able to identify that masks, maybe by scanning a barcode or something like that, to ensure that I have genuine products? At some point, we have seen during the PPB post-market surveillance, they come to the pharmacy and they will say, oh, this product is not genuine. But did the person at the retail level have the capacity? Are they empowered to actually identify these products? And the same case with the healthcare workers. When they buy a PPE, are they empowered to know which PPE passed the test? Of course, we know all these products are regulated by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, But in our market, we know there are very many unscrupulous people who try to beat the system. So beyond the PPB regulation, what can we do to empower that person at the tail end of as the user to identify these products? The other shortfall I've witnessed is the predictability. And here what we are seeing is that it is very difficult to predict when a product will be available in the market. And what we are saying here is we could, the regulator could offer a service level agreement which they can honor so that the investor is able to predict that when I apply for the evaluation of this COVID test kit, this is the amount of time I expect to spend as I wait. This will ensure that we don't have unorthodox people bringing products through what we call panya routes, because as we know, entrepreneurs are very impatient people. If you seem not to be enabling them to comply, they will look for an alternative route. So we recommend that PPB to allocate adequate resources to be able to meet the timelines, and this will go a long way in ensuring that the entrepreneurs are able to comply with the guidelines. We also need a policy on a well-structured policy on awareness creation. We have heard Dr. Wanga say they have a lot of activities on awareness creation, but is it entrenched in their policies so that we know that every quarter we'll have a structure, an awareness campaign, and we'll have it in this way. And here what we are suggesting is that we could utilize the mobile phone, which we almost know that it has almost a 90% coverage. And just as we receive very many marketing messages telling us we have this, what if PPB could utilize that and send that safety messages to all people so that everybody, the Wanjiko who is picking tea in Meru can know, yeah, if I take a Panadol and I have an adverse reaction, then I need to report. So those are my thoughts on the regulatory system and environment in our country. Back to you, Jayesh.
Interesting. Thank you, Dr. Kamau. I would like to move on to Dr. Munene. I have received a question on my personal WhatsApp. Mine is to encourage everybody that please type your questions on the chat box here so that the panelists can also see this. Please send in your questions, and I'm sure the panelists are looking forward to sharing their experience. But over to Dr. Munene. So, in your opinion, what can we do as healthcare workers to achieve better KPIs for healthcare worker safety, which ultimately translates to overall patient safety and better patient outcomes? Not sure if you got this question, Dr. Munene.
Thank you, Jayesh. So basically, I would want to emphasize on three key things. We have to look at leadership and how leadership is prioritizing patient safety, how leadership wants to promote patient safety culture, and also engage, the industry, healthcare workers, but also the general public. We have the World Patient Safety Day on Thursday. People will be looking at what is the Ministry of Health saying about this. What are the key opinion leaders in health talking about when it comes to patient safety? Because for them, it's still not palatable. So leadership that sort of stands out and talks about these things openly and makes them more palatable for the general public, for people who look up to them, for people who listen. And then again, education and training, and this has been mentioned severally. We need to basically build awareness activities, communication plans, and strategies, just for people to be aware that there's something called patient safety, pharmacovigilance. You can report your adverse reactions at the comfort of your home, or by telling your healthcare provider, who then is responsible enough to forward the information either to Pharmacy and Poisons Board or to the manufacturer of that product so that they can follow up. we still need more sensitization with our healthcare workers and just, sort of explain to them or, have a discussion about why is it so important for them to do the on-forwarding of the adverse events reports that they receive in their day-to-day work. I know most of the time they feel like it's out of their scope, and I will come in as a manufacturer or as a health authority and ask more questions as a follow-up to the report. But it's paramount that this information is sent to the health authority. The other thing is research. We need to enhance our research capacities and capabilities and have evidence-based policy and processes for patient safety. And I'm very pleased to hear Dr. Wanga speaking that they're collaborating with Wellcome Trust on this topic. I think this is very encouraging for us as Kenyans. And we hope that we will see and we will see the results of this kind of collaboration. Industry also has to take their role. The products are ours. We want them to have more benefit than risk to the patients. So industry has to also collaborate with the different other stakeholders in terms of coming up with the communication strategies in the country. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Winnie. No, now that you're talking about industry, and that brings me to a question which relates to the hard work that Dr. Wanga is doing. So the products are yours, right? You are industry. The products are yours. Yet we see in your presentations that the same products have some key shortfalls, should I say. They are our products, your products, yet compromising the safety of the same healthcare worker and the patients that we as an industry are interested to work with. So, and then you look at what the hard work that Dr. Karim Wanga and team are doing, where you see that they are doing the post-market surveillance. So my question to you is, looking at these shortfalls, what is it that us in the industry either are not doing right, or where our compliance with the recommended standards needs to be laid out and put in place a little more?
Thank you, Josh. Tough question. Basically, as industry and as the owners of the product, I can't emphasize more that PPB has really outlaid all the guidelines to ensure that the products that come into the market are safe. However, post-marketing surveillance is also inevitable because this product is coming, the risks are, could be as equal as the benefits, and therefore we need to evaluate with time whether we want to have them in the market or not. So I think what's important for the industry is to make follow-ups, and this is through, their medical representatives or their medical affairs liaisons, for the different healthcare practitioners that are using the product, just get feedback, sensitize them on how is the product working on the patient, but also looking at global data and following up on periodic safety reports around the world on how your product is performing in different parts of the world, and also the collaboration with the strict regulatory authorities, as rightly mentioned, who have more resources and more capacities to do post-marketing surveillance. I can't, not emphasize the need for collaboration across the different healthcare stakeholders. We are speaking about medical associations, pharmaceutical associations, nurses associations, and just educating their members on this particular topic. Yeah, I think it's just basically collaboration and good communication across the industry.
Thanks, Winnie. So maybe I go back to Dr. Wanga. Karim, if you can still be hearing us, then a question that has come, and I think this is important to understand because I guess there is a lot of ambiguity that these PPEs the gloves, they fall under whose realm? Who is in charge? Is it PPB or is it KABS? Can you clarify that, Dr. Wanga?
Yeah, so currently all medical devices and in vitro diagnostics are regulated by PPB. But however, it's important to note that for a long time, both the standards and even the regulation was at KABS. So KABS used to set the standards and also issue the product quality verification and all that. So now we can say we're in a period of transition where PPB is taking on that responsibility to regulate those products. We have already published some guidelines, especially on medical devices, also in vitro diagnostics. And we are also in the process of building capacity. Remember, these are new products that we have not been regulating before. Yeah, even blood products. Now PPB is regulating blood products as well. And therefore, we have tried to incorporate or entrench them in our guidelines, as well as internally moving towards building capacity for us to be properly regulated. Because if you ask me, for example, what do you look for in the quality of a pacemaker, which we regulate and register, I might be a bit lost because I really don't know even how a pacemaker works and so on. So I think there's a deliberate effort to bring on board people who have expertise to bring them within PPB so that we can build capacity in terms of regulation of medical devices and in vitro diagnostics.
Thank you. So just to clarify, does that still mean that KABS has a role? Like, will they be still setting the standards and then PPB will be taking the appropriate regulatory actions on these standards, or will PPB set the standard and take the regulatory action? Just clarification. Yeah,
for now, there is a collaboration, rather memorandum of understanding between PPB and KABS. And in fact, for majority of medical devices, pre-inspection at countries of origin is actually being done by KABS. So based on the reports that KABS generate, then PPB is able to effect the action or be able to take the necessary steps or even issue the necessary approvals. So there's an agreement, a kind of memorandum of understanding between KABS and PPB. However, going forward, I think KABS will still remain with the mandate of setting the standard. And these ones will be adopted by PPB as standards and/or specifications, and it will be expected that manufacturers and MHs and ATRs at the time of registration actually comply or show proof or evidence of compliance with these standards and specifications. So there'll still be that kind of working relationship between KABS and PPB when it comes to medical devices and diagnostics.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wanga, for that. So again, mine is to encourage other colleagues. If you have any questions, please send them in. If you can type them again, that would be appreciated. And we are in the last stretch to the timeline. So mine's, should I say to Dr. Jerusha, that I like the fact, you've got an independent consultancy where you are trying to fill the gap of consulting in pharmacovigilance activities. And I like your call where you've told people that if you are the same person who is the regulatory pharmacist, you are also the company pharmacist, you are also the head of sales, and then you are being expected to take on these PV duties, then definitely enough attention is not going to all these important aspects, and for the area that I'm most passionate about, pharmacovigilance. So how is it that you would like to reach out to your industry mates, right? To tell them what is it that as a consultant you are able to sort out for them, which they can outsource, like you put it in your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So we do this by seeking collaborations with organizations like KAPI. We have made several presentations to KAPI, and we continue engaging. We also do trainings, like we held a very successful training on medical devices in March. We had planned several trainings. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 came and disrupted everything. And we are really reaching out to the stakeholders by conducting training sessions and participating in such sessions as this. And now that you have given me a chance, Jayesh, I would like just to comment on the premises that the PPEs are being sold. And this is just a comment from Ms. Dr. Wanga to take up. We have realized that the PPEs are being sold in all kinds of facilities, from bookshops to the road signs by hawkers, and they really need to look at who is really supposed to sell these PPEs. I thought I needed to bring that out. Otherwise, from our side, we try to reach out from the stakeholders using those avenues that I've talked about. And if anybody would like to contact us, I already gave our contacts. And if I don't know, I don't have that slide, but I'm sure the KAPI Dr. Odhiambo has. We can always get those contacts from there. Thank you. The upcoming book also will have a lot of insights into all these issues. So you'll be very much welcome, and I will be able to announce it once it's ready. They should be ready by the end of November.
Sure, thank you. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. So let me open up a question to all three of you now. And the question goes that in line with the quality and efficacy of PPEs that we are talking about right now, there are concerns on whether our healthcare workers who are at the front line responding to the pandemic, right? Looking after you and I, the healthcare workers who are at the front line responding to the pandemic are being cared for to be able to deliver on this account. What is your take? Yeah, what is your independent take as an expert in this space? How can we address such shortfalls if they are to ensure our healthcare workers are safe to be able to care for our patients adequately? It's a mouthful of a question, but I guess you know what the question is getting to. Your expertise as a regulator, as a consultant, as a PV expert, what is it that you and I can do to really be there for our healthcare workers in line with the theme for this year, health worker safety, a priority for patient safety? Dr. Wanga first.
Okay.
Sorry, Karim, we can't hear you well.
Can you hear me?
No.
Very faint, very faint.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe you can do something.
Maybe let me ask this to Dr. Munene as you try and see where you can get network. You said you are in a remote area. I was once told by a friend, climb up a tree. So mind just to be cautious, but let me ask this to Dr. Munene.
Jayesh, please just repeat the question. I was a bit interrupted.
So the question goes that in line with the quality and efficacy of PPEs, there are concerns on whether our healthcare workers who are at the front line responding to the pandemic are being cared for to be able to deliver on this account. What is your take as an expert in this space? How can we address such shortfalls if there are, and to ensure our healthcare workers are safe to be able to care for our patients adequately? Yours being the industry perspective.
So basically, as industry leaders and coming from industry manufacturer point of view, I have seen a lot of collaboration in terms of technological and knowledge transfer, and sharing. And this has also been convened by PPB just to accelerate local manufacturing in the country. Yeah. I think it's very commendable also seeing, what Dr. Wanga alluded to in terms of making the guidelines a bit flexible for the acceleration of these products to be in the market, but at the same time, just putting post-surveillance measures to make sure that the same products don't cause harm in the market. So there has to be a very good balance in terms of putting processes and policies that will accelerate the bring to market faster. But at the same time, there has to be systems put out. And these systems can only be put out first by training and educating, making them aware that they should report in case of any adverse drug reactions or adverse events. Flagging quickly if there's any products that are causing any harm in the market. There is a lot of collaboration also with international standard organizations when it comes to setting standards, and also, as said, collaborating with KEBS in terms of setting the standards for these products to be in the market, and empowering local manufacturers with training and best practice from other growing markets, or what we would call the developed countries. Yeah, so there's just that exchange of information and knowledge, and just putting the patient first when it comes to a crisis like this or in a pandemic situation like this. Also, the developing countries realizing and recognizing that they are not able to meet our demands, so the most they can do is share with us the knowledge to manufacture locally.
Thank you, Winnie. Over to you, Dr. Kamau. What's your take on this?
Thank you, Jayesh. I will look at this issue from two perspectives. We have the issue of the availability, and we have the issue of quality. On availability, we know that nature abhors a vacuum, and so already the PPB has put in structures to ensure that the products are safe by just putting guidelines to ensure the products are registered very fast and they are available. However, we still have another entity that we deal with called the Kentrade. And so I've not heard Dr. Wanga talk anything about the Kentrade. There needs to be very close collaboration between PPB and Kentrade to ensure that these products are available. And on quality, this definitely, as we have talked, it falls squarely on the regulator, and they have very good guidelines. Otherwise, as I've just said a few minutes ago, we really need to look at what is in the market and what can we do to ensure that what is in the market is of the appropriate quality, and really we need to look at the premises that are selling these products. And as my parting shot, to help the healthcare workers, we also need to work very closely with the healthcare facilities, because this is where most of the healthcare workers work, to ensure that they entrench a policy. There is a policy that entrenches PV as an important department of that. And however simplified it is, like having a PV desk in the pharmacy department, whereby all the health workers in that facility know we can go and report our events here, and there is really somebody who is responsible to escalate this. Because most of the time the healthcare workers are actually very overloaded, and they may not have the time or to just do that reporting. But if that process is made very easy, that we can report it here and that person takes it over, then we shall take pharmacovigilance to the next level, especially from the healthcare facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamau. Interesting. Dr. Wanga, have you been able to hear us?
Yes, we
Dr.
can hear you.
Wanga?
Can you hear me?
Yes, better now?
Better?
Yes, sir. Go on.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I was saying it's very important to protect our healthcare workers and the soldiers in the fight of combat against COVID-19. And the only way we can protect them is to ensure availability of personal protective equipment that is safe and that is of good quality. And in this front, we have programs to ensure that there's quality survey of PPEs, and we are actually expanding the scope, not just surgical masks, but also to look at surgical gloves, to look at the gowns and the overalls, the shields, and all the other important personal protective equipment to ensure that even the local manufacturers, because a lot of it now being sourced from the local manufacturers, that the compliance with the standard and the specification is actually achieved for these PPEs, so that they can be able to serve that purpose. Also, in terms of procurement, especially for public health facilities, it is important that technical people, especially the pharmacists, are involved in the procurement processes of HPs and even the PPEs, because you realize in some cases we have procurement officers who are not technical people going to the market and buying products, buying PPEs for the healthcare facilities, only to realize that they are not meeting either the specification or the standards. So it's important to mainstream technical people, especially the pharmacists, the procurement products of HPTs, including PPEs. We are to win against this war. The other very important point is training of healthcare workers on issues of quality and also safety, for them to have the skills to be able to detect the issues of adverse drug reactions for these treatments of COVID-19, and also to be able to detect or have suspicion for suspected poor quality products, HPTs, even PPEs, so that they can be able to detect and also report for further regulatory actions. So training and sensitization is critical for us to be able to get reports in a timely manner and be able to take regulatory actions in a timely manner, so that substandard products or falsified products can be removed from the market and minimize exposure of our healthcare workers to these either substandard or falsified HPTs. The last one I want to talk to is the issue of preparedness in terms of pharmacovigilance for a possible COVID-19 vaccine. Because if we can get a vaccine, then we are going to protect both the patient and also the healthcare worker against the pandemic. So there are already initiatives in the region and even in the continent for training of regulators in terms of how the rollout of this vaccine, and the mainstreaming pharmacovigilance for healthcare workers to be able to monitor patients and also, monitor the population if this vaccine is going to be deployed in terms of reporting of adverse events following immunization, and also, praise them on the forms for reporting of those ADR, and also the issues of quality. So those are some of the areas we are focusing on going forward, just in preparation for a possible COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wanga. We've come to the end of our webinar. Are you still able to see my screen? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you all to each and every panelist that we've got. Your insights, your experience, I'm sure has been very insightful to our participants today. And with that, a big thank you, a big asante sana to each one. I would like to just remind everybody that the big day itself is on 17th September, but notwithstanding, KAPI has got interesting topics like the ones that we've discussed today. To remind you, tomorrow we will be back here from 2 to 4 on the role of professional societies and associations in health worker safety. And mine is to encourage each and everyone to please join in tomorrow. Bring a few friends along. Please share this message widely. And the social media handles, just so that you can follow us. Remind this, I had a typo on the first time I showed the email address, which is kapi.secretary@gmail.com. Please follow us, please share, and be on the watch out, because this evening you will have the poster for tomorrow's meeting, which will be ready. So please share that widely, and thank you, KAPI, for having me as your moderator. To all our participants, and especially to our panelists, Asante sana, thank you, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayesh, for the wonderful moderation, and to our speakers, panelists, and guests. It's been a pleasure learning with you, and we hope you'll join us for the subsequent sessions moving forward. Asanteni.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you.